The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland like a living thing trying to claw its way inside Danny's jacket. He pulled the thermal hood tighter around his face and squinted against the white wall of snow. 14 years old, and he still thought walking in Alaskan blizzards was better than sitting through another boring video lesson about galactic trade routes. His boots crunched through the ice crust with each step. The research station sat 2 miles behind him now, barely visible as a dim glow through the storm. His parents would kill him if they knew he'd wandered this far, but Danny needed the quiet. Living in a building full of alien scientists meant constant weird noises, strange smells, and creatures that looked at him like he was the weird one that something glinted blue in the snow ahead. Danny stopped and wiped ice from his goggles. The light pulsed faintly, then moved. Not a light. Tracks. He knelt down and brushed snow away from crystalline footprints that glowed with soft bioluminescence. Each print was small, maybe the size of his palm, with 4 toes and tiny claw marks. The tracks led away from what looked like a crash site. Pieces of metal stuck out of the snowdrift, still warm enough to melt the ice around them. Danny followed the glowing trail, his curiosity stronger than his common sense. The print stopped at a small ice cave formed by 2 fallen boulders. Danny pulled out his flashlight and pointed it inside. 2 golden eyes stared back at him, huge and terrified and definitely not human. The creature was the size of a house cat, covered in scales that shifted from purple to dull gray as Danny watched. It had wings folded against its body, a long tail wrapped around itself, and it was shaking so hard its whole body vibrated. Frost covered its scales like a death shroud. Danny recognized it immediately. His parents had shown him pictures during their xenobiology lessons. A starwing. From Pyros 7, a moon with volcanoes and lava rivers and temperatures hot enough to melt lead. This little dragon was dying in the cold. The starwing made a sound like wind chimes breaking, a desperate chirping that went straight to Danny's heart. Its golden eyes locked onto his face, and Danny felt something he couldn't explain. A pull. A connection. The creature was begging him for help without words. Every training lesson his parents drilled into him said, not to touch unknown alien life. Don't interfere. Don't make contact. Report and observe. But those rules were written by people who'd never looked into eyes filled with pure terror and hope mixed together. Danny unzipped his thermal jacket and reached into the cave. The starwing didn't pull away. It crawled forward on trembling legs and pressed its freezing body against Danny's hand. The cold of its scales burned his skin even through his glove. He scooped the creature up and tucked it inside his jacket against his chest. The starwing's claws dug into his shirt, but Danny barely noticed. The dragon was so cold it felt like holding a block of ice. He zipped the jacket around it and started running back toward the research station. The storm fought him every step. Wind pushed him backward, and snow filled his tracks as fast as he made them. The starwing chirped weakly against his chest, and Danny felt its tiny heart beating too slow. Like a clock winding down, he reached the station's side entrance and slipped through the airlock. Warm air hit his face, and he gasped in relief. The dragon in his jacket stirred slightly, making confused sounds. Danny pulled off his gloves and felt the creature through his jacket. Still ice cold, but warming slowly. Getting to his room without anyone seeing was the hard part. He took the maintenance stairs instead of the main hallway, ducking past the recreation area where 3 floating jellyfish aliens were watching Earth movies. His door slid open and he rushed inside, locking it behind him. Danny pulled the starwing out carefully and set it on his bed. The creature looked even worse in the light. Its scales were completely gray now, almost white. Ice crystals formed on its wing membranes. It tried to lift its head, but couldn't. Danny grabbed every heating pad and thermal blanket he owned. He created a nest on his bed and placed the dragon in the center, cranking the heating pads to maximum. Then he pulled the heat lamp from his terrarium and aimed it at the creature. The starwing's eyes followed him weakly. Danny sat next to it and very carefully stroked one finger down its head. The scales felt like frozen glass. For 20 minutes, nothing changed. Danny started to panic. What if he was too late? What if the dragon needed special medicine or food or something he couldn't provide? Then he noticed the scales near the heat lamp. They were shifting, gray to purple, just a small patch at first. The starwing took a deeper breath. Then another. Its tail twitched. Danny turned up the heat lamp higher. The purple spread across the dragon's body like ink in water. Gold highlights appeared along the wing edges. The creature's eyes grew brighter, and it lifted its head properly for the first time. It looked at Danny and made a soft cooing sound. Then it crawled forward on steadier legs and pressed its head against Danny's hand. The scales were warm now, almost hot, and Danny felt that strange connection again. Stronger this time, like the dragon was saying thank you in a language deeper than words. Danny smiled and scratched under its chin. The starwing's eyes half closed in pleasure, and it started making a sound like a cat purring mixed with crackling fire. He needed to name it. The dragon chirped again, a high-pitched pip sound, and Danny laughed. Pip, that fits you. Pip seemed to approve, curling up in Danny's lap and wrapping its tail around his wrist. Within minutes, the little dragon was asleep, scales glowing faintly purple and gold in the lamplight. Danny grabbed his datapad to research starwing care, then froze. A news alert flashed across the screen. Alien transport crashes in Arctic. Galactic Wildlife Authority searching for survivors. Exotic creatures missing. He looked down at the sleeping dragon in his lap. Pip made happy sleeping sounds, warm and safe and alive. Danny deleted the notification and pulled up xenobiology files instead. Whatever happened next, he wasn't letting anyone take Pip away. The dragon had chosen him in that ice cave. He'd chosen the dragon right back. Outside his window, the blizzard raged on, but inside his room, everything felt right for the first time since moving to this frozen wasteland. Danny had a secret now, a friend who needed him, a tiny dragon who'd looked at him like he was the only hope in the entire universe. He just had to figure out how to keep that promise. 3 weeks of lying felt like 3 years. Danny sat at his desk, pretending to focus on homework, while Pip explored the heating vent for the 100th time. The little dragon had grown from cat-sized to small dog-sized, and hiding something that big in a 12 by 15-foot room was getting harder every day. Pip chirped and dove out of the vent, spreading wings that now had a 2-foot span. The dragon glided across the room and landed on Danny's shoulder, nearly knocking him out of his chair. Warm scales pressed against his neck as Pip nuzzled his ear. Danny laughed and pushed the dragon's snout away. You're getting too big for that. Pip made a sad sound, and Danny immediately felt guilty. Not just regular guilt. He felt Pip's actual sadness, like it was his own emotion. The connection between them had grown stronger each day until Danny could sense the dragon's feelings as clearly as his own thoughts. When Danny was stressed about algebra, Pip would curl around his shoulders and purr until the tension melted away. When Danny laughed at videos, Pip's scales would shimmer and glow brighter, reflecting the joy. They were linked somehow, bonded in a way Danny didn't fully understand but couldn't imagine living without. His datapad beeped. Message from his mom. Dinner in 20 minutes. Why is your room using 3 times normal power? Danny's stomach dropped. He'd been so careful about everything else, but the heating bills were going to expose him. Pip needed temperatures around 90 degrees to be comfortable, which meant running heaters constantly. He typed back quickly. Been really cold lately. Think I'm getting sick. Pip tilted its head, golden eyes worried. The dragon could sense Danny's anxiety and pressed closer, trying to comfort him. Danny scratched under Pip's chin and felt the dragon's pleasure mix with his own relief. That connection worked both ways, feeding emotions back and forth like a loop. A knock on the door made them both freeze. Pip's scales instantly shifted to match the blue-gray of the walls, a camouflage reflex Danny had discovered by accident. The dragon leaped silently onto the heating vent and held perfectly still. Danny opened the door crack. Dr. Reeve stood outside, his insectoid body clicking as he shifted weight between his 6 legs. The alien's compound eyes glittered with curiosity. Dana Webb, yes? I am monitoring thermal signatures for my research. Dr. Reeve's translator gave his voice a buzzing quality. Your quarters show unusual heat patterns. Concentrated sources, not typical human warming needs. Danny forced himself to stay calm. Pip could feel his fear, and the dragon's own panic started feeding back to him, making it worse. He took a breath and broke the cycle. "I've been studying cold-blooded species for my biology project," Danny said, pointing at his empty terrarium. "Trying to understand how you handle Earth's temperature. I'm using heating lamps to simulate your home world's climate." Dr. Reeves' antennae twitched. "Interesting approach, though inefficient. I will send you data on proper thermal regulation." The alien left, and Danny sagged against the door. Pip shimmered back to purple and gold, launching across the room to press against Danny's chest. The dragon was trembling. Danny held Pip close and felt the fear dissolve into relief on both sides of their bond. They'd gotten away with it again, but the close calls were getting too frequent. He spent the next hour researching Starwing biology on the station's database, using his parents' access codes. What he found made his chest tight. Starwings were highly intelligent and deeply empathic. They formed lifelong bonds with a single chosen companion, sharing emotions and eventually even thoughts. Baby starwings separated from their clutch needed that bond to survive. Without emotional connection and support, they would waste away even with perfect physical care. Pip hadn't just chosen Danny. Pip needed Danny to live. The database also showed that forced separation from a bonded companion caused something called severance syndrome. The starwing would stop eating, their scales would dull, and they'd die within weeks. Even the companions suffered, experiencing phantom pains and emotional emptiness that could last years. Danny looked at Pip, who was playing with a ball of yarn and making happy chirping sounds. The dragon grabbed the yarn in its teeth and brought it to Danny like a gift, tail wagging like a puppy. His datapad beeped again. His father this time. Family meeting after dinner. Important. Danny's heart sank. Pip sensed it immediately and dropped the yarn, pressing close. The dragon's warmth and concern flooded through their bond, trying to push away the dread. Dinner was awkward. Danny pushed food around his plate while his parents exchanged looks. His mother worked on her datapad, while his father kept clearing his throat like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Finally, his dad set down his fork. "We need to talk about what's in your room." Danny's appetite disappeared completely. "I don't know what you mean." His mother turned her datapad around. The screen showed thermal imaging of the entire station. Danny's room glowed bright red, with a small moving heat signature that was definitely not human-shaped. "I'm a xenobiologist, Danny. I know what a starwing's heat signature looks like." She didn't sound angry. She sounded sad. "How long?" 3 weeks, Danny whispered. "Since the transport crash." His father rubbed his face. "The Galactic Wildlife Authority is still searching for survivors. They've recovered 12 creatures so far. All are being returned to their home worlds or proper sanctuaries. Pip isn't going anywhere." Danny stood up, fists clenched. "We're bonded. Separation will kill him." His parents looked at each other. His mother spoke carefully. "Sweetheart, we know about starwing bonding, but you're 14. The GWA won't recognize a bond formed with a minor, especially a human. They'll say you influenced a vulnerable infant. I saved his life. He was freezing to death, and I brought him inside. He chose me." His father's voice was gentle. "We believe you, son, but galactic law is complicated. Unregistered alien creatures can't stay on Earth without proper documentation. The penalties for harboring them are severe." Danny felt tears burning his eyes. "So, you can turn him in? Just report him like he's lost property?" His mother stood and hugged him. "No, we're going to help you, but we need time to figure out how. The GWA is conducting final sweeps this week. If they find Pip, they'll take him immediately, and we won't have any say." 3 days, his father said. "We'll give you 3 days to find a legal solution. Research bonding laws, find precedents, anything that might help. If we can't find a way to protect Pip legally, we'll have to make some very hard choices." Danny pulled away from his mother and ran back to his room. Pip was waiting at the door, scales shifting nervously through colors. The dragon sensed Danny's distress and made worried sounds. Danny collapsed on his bed, and Pip climbed onto his chest, curling into a ball. The dragon's warm weight was comforting, but not enough to stop the tears. Through their bond, Pip shared Danny's grief, and Danny felt Pip's confusion and fear. 3 days to save his best friend. 3 days to find a miracle in galactic law. Danny wrapped his arms around Pip and made a silent promise. Whatever it took, whatever he had to do, he would not let them be separated. The dragon had trusted him in that ice cave, had chosen him when it could barely breathe. Danny would prove that trust wasn't misplaced. Danny's eyes burned from 2 days of reading legal documents written in languages his translator barely understood. Pip slept curled around his neck like a scaly scarf, occasionally making small dream sounds. The dragon had barely left his side since learning they might be separated, but Danny had found something. Deep in the Galactic Accord on Sentient Species Rights, subsection 12, paragraph 47, the Companion Bond Clause. If a creature formed a genuine psychic bond, forced separation could be considered torture under interstellar law. The bond had to be proven real, not just claimed. His father knocked and entered. The Interspecies Council agreed to hear your case. Tomorrow morning, 1000 hours. Danny's stomach flipped. Pip woke up and chirped nervously, sensing his fear. What if they don't believe me? His dad sat on the bed. Then we fight harder. Your mother is gathering medical evidence. Biometric scans, brainwave patterns, everything that proves your bond is real. You just have to present it well. The next morning, Danny stood in the station's council chamber, wearing his best clothes and trying not to shake. Pip perched on his shoulder, scales shifting between purple and gray with anxiety. Their shared nervousness made both of them worse until his mother squeezed his hand, and the cycle broke. 5 aliens sat at the curved council bench. Ambassador Trell, a reptilian from a high-gravity world, occupied the center seat. His scales were deep green, and his eyes were sharp. To his left sat Dr. Reeve, the insectoid scientist Danny had lied to. On the right was a floating jellyfish creature from Aqueous 12, a crystalline being that looked like living glass, and a furred mammalian alien Danny didn't recognize. Ambassador Trell spoke first, his translator rendering his hissing speech into perfect English. Daniel Webb, human child, you stand accused of harboring an unregistered alien creature in violation of Galactic Wildlife Protection Act 379. How do you plead? Danny's voice cracked. Not guilty. Pip isn't an unregistered creature. He's my bonded companion. The crystalline alien made a sound like wind chimes. A human child bonding with a starwing? Impossible. They require heat, careful nutrition, and emotional stability. Deathworlders cannot provide such delicate care. Danny felt anger flash through him and immediately felt Pip's matching anger through their bond. I've kept Pip alive for 3 weeks. He's healthy and growing and happy. That's more than being locked in some sanctuary. His mother stepped forward and placed a data chip on the council's reader. Medical evidence. Synchronized heart rates when in proximity. Matching brainwave patterns during rest. Emotional resonance verified by 3 independent scanners. The bond is scientifically proven. The jellyfish alien pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. My species also bonds deeply. I recognize the signs, but the child is young. How do we know this bond formed naturally and not through manipulation? Danny wanted to argue, but his father had coached him. Stay calm, stick to facts, let the evidence speak. I found Pip freezing to death in a blizzard. I brought him inside and warmed him up. I didn't know Starwings bonded. I just knew he needed help. Ambassador Trell studied Danny with unreadable eyes. Show us this bond. Demonstrate its strength. Danny nodded. A technician placed a transparent barrier between him and Pip. The dragon immediately panicked, scales flashing through colors as it tried to reach Danny. Danny felt Pip's fear spike through their connection, and his own chest tightened in response. Within seconds, both of them were in distress. Danny's heart rate jumped. Pip's scales dulled to ash gray, and the dragon's body temperature dropped 5 degrees. Danny felt actual physical pain in his chest, like someone was squeezing his heart. Ambassador Trell watched the medical monitors. Enough. Remove the barrier. The barrier dropped, and Pip launched at Danny, wrapping around him and trembling. Danny held the dragon close and felt their shared relief wash through the bond. Both their heart rates slowed together, synchronized perfectly. The furred alien spoke for the first time. I have witnessed many bonds. This is genuine. The question is whether it should be allowed to continue. Dr. Reeves' antennae twitched. The human child did violate protocol by not reporting the creature immediately. Danny's father stood. My son saved a dying infant. Punishing compassion sends a terrible message about what we value as a galactic community. The council members conferred quietly. Danny held Pip and tried not to hope too hard. The dragon nuzzled his cheek, and Danny felt love flowing through their bond, pure and uncomplicated. Ambassador Trell raised a hand for silence. We are prepared to vote when a communication alert interrupted him. The view screen activated, showing a massive dragon with silver and gold scales. Even through the screen, her presence was commanding. Pip made a small, frightened sound and pressed closer to Danny. I am High Priestess Urta of the Pyrosian Dragon Collective, the dragon said. I speak for all Starwings. We have been informed a human child claims bond with one of our young. This cannot stand. Ambassador Trell's spines rattled. Priestess Sarita, we were conducting an investigation before. The investigation is irrelevant, Sarita interrupted. All Starwings belong with their own kind. This human is too young, too short-lived, and too fragile to properly care for a dragon. We demand the infant's immediate return to Pyros 7. Danny felt his world crumbling. Pip's fear mixed with his own until he couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. The dragon tried to climb inside his jacket, making desperate chirping sounds. His mother stepped forward. With respect, Priestess, forced separation from a bonded companion has a 90% fatality rate in young Starwings. Your own medical texts confirm this. Sarita's eyes blazed. Then the bond should never have formed. The human interfered with natural development. He saved Pip's life. Danny shouted, unable to stay quiet. He was dying in the snow, and I brought him inside. I didn't force anything. Beep Shuzma. The ancient dragon studied him through the screen. Words are easy, human child, but you know nothing of Starwing needs or culture. You cannot comprehend what you have disrupted. Ambassador Trell looked troubled. Priestess Urta, this council has jurisdiction over the Pyrosian Collective has authority over all Starwings, regardless of location, Sarita said firmly. However, I am not unreasonable. I will travel to this research station and assess the situation personally. If this human child can prove he understands and can provide for a Starwing's true needs, I will petition for the bond's recognition. If he fails, the infant returns with me. No appeals. The screen went dark. Danny stood frozen, Pip trembling against him. Ambassador Trell looked at him with something like pity. The priestess will arrive in 48 hours. I suggest you prepare thoroughly, young human. She is not known for mercy. The council dismissed them. Danny walked back to his room in a daze, Pip silent and scared in his arms. His parents followed, equally shocked. What kind of test will she give me? Danny asked. His mother shook her head. I don't know. Starwing culture is very private. But whatever she asks, you'll have to succeed perfectly. One failure, and Pip goes to Pyros 7. Danny looked down at the dragon curled against his chest. Pip's golden eyes met his, full of trust and fear. Through their bond, Danny felt the dragon's absolute faith that Danny would protect him no matter what. 2 days to prepare for tests he didn't understand from a dragon who'd already decided humans weren't good enough. 2 days to prove the impossible or lose his best friend forever. Danny carried Pip to his room and held him close. The dragon's warmth seeped into his chest, and their bond hummed with shared determination. Whatever Sarita wanted to test, Danny would pass. He had to. Pip had survived a crash, freezing temperatures, and weeks of hiding. They could survive this too. Together. The shuttle landed in a blast of superheated air that melted snow 50 feet in every direction. Danny watched through the station window as 2 massive Starwings emerged, each the size of a small truck. Pip pressed against the glass, scales flickering with colors Danny had never seen before. Fear and recognition mixed through their bond. High Priestess Urta was stunning and terrifying. Her scales shifted between silver and gold, and her eyes held centuries of wisdom and judgment. Behind her walked a crimson dragon, younger but no less impressive, muscles rippling under scarlet scales that Danny's father placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's Drake Master Yudo, her guardian. Be respectful, but don't back down. Dragons respect strength." The meeting room felt too small, with two massive dragons inside. Sarita settled her bulk carefully while Yudo remained standing, wings half spread in a protective stance. Pip hid behind Danny's legs, peeking out nervously. Sarita's voice was melodic even through the translator. "So this is the infant. Come here, little one." Pip whimpered and pressed closer to Danny. The dragon's fear flooded their bond, and Danny knelt down, scratching behind Pip's ears. "It's okay. She won't hurt you." Pip slowly crept forward. Sarita lowered her massive head and sniffed the baby dragon, making a deep humming sound. Pip chirped back uncertainly. "He is healthy," Sarita admitted. "Better than expected for one so young, separated from his clutch. But physical health is not the measure of proper care." Danny stood up straight. "What do you want me to prove?" Sarita's eyes fixed on him. "Starwings have bonded with many species across millennia. Fire breathers, magma dwellers, heat-resistant crystalline beings. Never with water-world soft skins who live mere decades. Your kind are too fragile, too short-lived, too fundamentally incompatible." Yudo spoke for the first time. "My own companion lived 300 years. I'm still young. How can you promise to care for a being who will outlive you 5 times over?" Danny felt the weight of that question. Pip would live for centuries. Danny would be lucky to see 80 years. Through their bond, he felt Pip's sudden fear of being alone. "I can't promise forever," Danny said quietly. "But I can promise right now. Every day I have, Pip has me. Completely. Isn't that better than centuries of being safe but alone?" Sarita was quiet for a long moment. "Pretty words. Let's see if you can back them with action. I offer you 3 challenges. Pass all 3, and I will petition for your bond recognition. Fail even one, and the infant comes with me to Pyro's 7. No second chances." Danny's mouth was dry, but he nodded. "I accept." The first challenge began immediately. Sarita led them to an empty cargo bay where station engineers had assembled equipment under Yudo's direction. Heat lamps, thermal regulators, and what looked like a miniature volcanic vent. "Starwings require specific heat environments to grow properly," Sarita explained. "Too cold, and we sicken. Too hot, and our scales crack. Build a sustainable heat source that will serve this infant for the next 5 years." Danny studied the equipment. His parents had taught him thermodynamics, but this was beyond anything he'd done before. Pip chirped encouragingly, and Danny felt confidence flowing through their bond. He spent 3 hours working with the engineers, adjusting heat outputs and creating circulation patterns. Pip tested each configuration, scales changing color to indicate comfort levels. When Pip's scales glowed bright purple gold, Danny knew he'd found the right balance. Sarita examined the setup critically. "Adequate. You understand basic needs. But any technician could build this. Challenge 2 will test your heart, not your mind." They moved outside the station. The Alaskan wilderness stretched endlessly under gray skies. Yudo produced a containment cube and released something that made Danny's blood freeze. An ice wolf, native to Earth's polar regions. Twice the size of a normal wolf with frost coating its fur and icicle teeth. The creature snarled and locked eyes on Pip. "Protect your companion," Sarita said simply. "No weapons. No calling for help. Just you and your bond." The ice wolf charged. Pip shrieked and tried to fly, but panic made the dragon clumsy. Danny didn't think. He threw himself between them, spreading his arms wide. The wolf skidded to a stop, confused by prey that didn't run. Danny's heart hammered, but he held his ground. Through the bond, he felt Pip's terror and pushed back calm he didn't really feel. The wolf circled. Danny turned with it, keeping himself between predator and dragon. Pip landed on his shoulder, trembling, making himself an easy target. Danny reached up and pulled the dragon down, tucking Pip against his chest with one arm. The wolf lunged. Danny dove sideways and rolled, protecting Pip with his body. He came up running, heading for rocky terrain where the wolf's eyes would work against it. His boots slipped on ice, but he kept moving. The wolf was faster. It caught up and slashed at Danny's leg. Pain exploded through his calf, and he stumbled. Pip shrieked and blasted fire at the wolf, but the flame was weak and small. The wolf barely noticed. Danny's mind raced. Ice wolves were ambush predators. They relied on scent tracking. He grabbed a handful of snow and scrubbed it over himself and Pip, masking their scent. Then he pulled off his jacket, threw it away from them, and climbed into a crevice between rocks. The wolf followed the jacket. Danny held Pip close and felt their hearts beating together, synchronized through fear. The dragon licked his face, trying to help, and Danny almost laughed despite everything. Yudo activated a containment field that trapped the wolf. Sarita approached the crevice. "You are injured." Danny's leg was bleeding through his pants. "Pip isn't. That's what matters." Sarita helped him out of the rocks. "You shielded him with your own body. Foolish. You could have died. Then I die protecting him," Danny said. "Isn't that what companions do?" The ancient dragon's expression was unreadable. Challenge 3. The most important. Back inside, Sarita had Danny sit in a chair while Pip curled in his lap. Medical staff bandaged his leg, but the pain was manageable. Pip kept nuzzling him worriedly. "The final test is one of truth," Sarita said. "I will create a telepathic maze. You must find Pip using only your bond. No sight, no sound, only the connection between your minds." She touched Danny's forehead with one claw. The world went dark and silent. Danny panicked for a moment, then forced himself calm. He reached out with his feelings, searching for Pip. Wrong directions pulled at him. Phantom emotions that felt like Pip, but weren't. Danny ignored them and focused on what he knew was real. The warmth of their bond, the way Pip's happiness felt different from fear, the unique texture of the dragon's love. He walked through darkness following that feeling. It grew stronger. He heard Pip calling his name, actually speaking through their bond for the first time. Not chirps, but words formed from pure emotion. Danny found Pip at the center of the maze, the dragon glowing like a star in the darkness. They touched, and the maze dissolved. Danny opened his eyes to find tears on his face. Pip was crying too, pressed against his chest. Through their bond, Danny felt everything. Pip's fear of losing him, love so pure it hurt, trust absolute and unshakable. Sarita watched them with ancient eyes. "I have seen many bonds in my long life. Most are relationships of convenience or necessity. This is different. This is choice made freely on both sides." She settled her bulk onto the floor. "I must tell you something, young human. I too had a bonded companion once. He was short-lived like you. We had only 30 years together before age took him. Those 30 years were the most meaningful of my 300-year existence." Sarita's voice softened. "I opposed your bond because I feared Pip would suffer as I did when my companion died. But I was wrong. Denying this connection out of fear of future pain is cowardice. You have proven you understand sacrifice, dedication, and love." She turned to Ambassador Trell, who had been watching silently. "I, High Priestess Sarita, petition the Galactic Council to recognize the bond between this human child and the Starwing infant. Let no one separate them." Danny couldn't speak. Relief flooded through him so strongly that Pip glowed bright as a lamp, their shared joy feeding back and forth. Then alarms screamed through the station. Red lights flashed. Ambassador Trell's datapad lit up with urgent messages. Multiple ships entering Earth's atmosphere. A technician shouted. "Galactic Wildlife Authority Enforcement Fleet. They're demanding immediate access to the station." Sarita's eyes blazed. "They have no authority over recognized bonds." "They don't know about the recognition yet," Yudo growled. "The paperwork takes days to process." Through the window, Danny saw ships descending. Big ships with weapons and shields. His mother grabbed his arm. "Danny, you need to hide. If they find Pip before the bond is official," she didn't finish. Danny looked down at Pip, who looked back with terrified golden eyes. Through their bond, he felt the dragon's absolute certainty. If the GWA took Pip now, they'd never see each other again. Danny stood up despite his injured leg. Then we run. Danny's father shoved a backpack into his arms. Emergency supplies. Thermal gear, 3 days of food, medical kit. Go through the maintenance tunnels. They exit 2 miles north. Heavy footsteps echoed through the station. Authoritative voices demanding access. Pip clung to Danny's shoulder, scales flickering with camouflage instincts that wouldn't help against thermal scanners. His mother hugged him hard. Stay in geothermal areas. Keep Pip warm. We'll stall them as long as we can. Sarita blocked the hallway with her massive body. Go, young human. I will invoke diplomatic immunity. It will buy you hours at most. Danny ran. His injured leg screamed with each step, but adrenaline pushed him forward. Pip's fear fed into his own until they were both shaking. He found a maintenance access and yanked it open, plunging into darkness. The tunnels were tight and cold. Emergency lighting flickered every 20 feet. Danny pulled out a flashlight and moved as fast as he dared. Behind him, he heard shouting, crashes, the sound of station doors being forced open. Pip chirped frantically. Through their bond, Danny felt the dragon, trying to be brave for him. That made him smile despite everything. We're okay, buddy. Just a little further. The tunnel exit opened onto frozen wasteland. Wind hit Danny like a physical blow, and snow immediately began covering his tracks. Pip shuddered and burrowed into Danny's jacket, seeking warmth. The dragon was weakening already. Hover drones appeared in the sky, scanning with thermal imaging. Danny ducked behind rocks, but he knew they'd spotted him. No point hiding now. He started running toward the geothermal zone his mother had mapped years ago. The storm intensified. Danny could barely see 10 feet ahead. His leg was bleeding again, and exhaustion made every step harder. Pip was shivering against his chest despite the jacket, making pitiful sounds. Danny felt the dragon's life force dimming through their bond. Cold was killing Pip slowly. They needed heat, or this would end badly. A crevasse opened up without warning. Danny's boot hit empty air, and suddenly he was falling. He twisted, protecting Pip with his body as they hit an ice shelf 20 feet down. Pain exploded through his shoulder, but he kept his grip on the dragon. Pip crawled out of his jacket, chirping in distress. Danny's vision swam. His shoulder was dislocated or broken. He couldn't tell which. Above, hover drones circled but couldn't descend into the narrow crevasse. We have to move, Danny gasped. His breath made fog in the freezing air. Pip's wings spread. The dragon was bigger now than when they'd met, strong enough to fly properly. Pip grabbed Danny's good arm with surprisingly strong claws and flapped hard. They rose unsteadily out of the crevasse, Pip straining with Danny's weight. They cleared the edge, and Pip collapsed, exhausted. Danny pulled the dragon close. Through their bond, he felt Pip's determination mixed with failing strength. The cold was too much, then Danny saw it. Steam rising from the ground a quarter-mile away. The geothermal zone. Volcanic vents that stayed hot year-round. Melting snow in a perfect circle of bare ground. He stumbled forward, carrying Pip now. The dragon had gone limp, scales completely gray. Danny's own body was shutting down from cold and injury, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The ground changed from ice to warm stone. Steam hit Danny's face, and he almost cried with relief. He set Pip directly on a thermal vent where heat poured from the earth. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then color flooded back into Pip's scales. Purple, gold, hints of red Danny had never seen. The dragon's eyes opened and focused on Danny. Pip stood up on shaky legs and spread wings over the heat vent. The dragon's whole body began to glow. Not just scales, but from inside, like Pip had swallowed fire. The glow intensified until Danny had to shield his eyes. When he looked again, Pip was different. Bigger, brighter, scales forming patterns that seemed to shift and move. The dragon looked at Danny, and Danny felt something new in their bond. Not just emotions, actual words. Danny. Pip's voice echoed in his mind, clear as spoken speech. You're hurt. Danny stared. You could talk? Like actually talk. The heat awakened something. Pip's mental voice was young but clear. Ancient memories. I understand now. What I am. What we are together. Pip placed a glowing claw on Danny's broken shoulder. Warmth spread through the injury, not healing it, but easing the pain. Through their bond, Danny felt Pip's love so clearly now, no longer just an emotional sense, but actual conscious thought. "I've been trying to tell you something since you found me," Pip continued, "but I couldn't form words until now." Images flooded Danny's mind. The transport ship, not a simple crash. Pirates attacking, trying to steal rare creatures for black markets. Escape pods launching in panic. Baby star wings scattered across Earth. "My brothers and sisters." Pip's voice cracked with emotion. "I can feel them. Faint but there. 3 others survived. They're calling for help, but no one can hear them." Danny pulled up the emergency beacon on his datapad with shaking hands. He could contact the station, but that would give away their position. The GWA would be on them in minutes. Through the bond, he felt Pip's conflict. Safety versus family. The dragon looked at Danny with those golden eyes, now filled with intelligence and awareness. "We have to save them," Danny said. "Don't we?" Pip pressed close. "You're already hurt. The GWA is hunting us. This is foolish." "You would do it for me," Danny said. "That's what being bonded means. Protecting each other's family." Pip's scales flashed bright gold. "Then we go together. Always together." Danny activated the beacon. His mother's face appeared, streaked with soot. Behind her, the station looked damaged. "Danny, where are you?" "The GWA is tearing the place apart." "Mom, there are other Starwings. Pip's siblings. They're alive and suffering. We need the scanners to find them." His mother's expression shifted from worry to determination. "Send me your coordinates. Your father and I will feed you the scanner data." "But Danny, you have maybe 3 hours before the GWA tracks this signal." Ambassador Trell appeared on screen. "Make that 2 hours. They have military-grade equipment." "Young human, this is brave, but possibly suicidal." Sarata pushed into view. "I will delay them however I can. But you must hurry. If the Pyrosian Collective learns of more abandoned young ones, they will escalate this beyond anyone's control." The transmission ended. Danny looked at Pip, who had grown to the size of a large dog now. Power radiating from scales that glowed like molten metal. 3 locations, Danny said, reading the scanner data. 1 in the deep ocean, 1 in the desert, 1 in the tundra. "The ocean one is dying fastest," Pip said, mental voice urgent. "I can barely feel her anymore." Danny pulled out the map. The ocean signal came from a trench 3 miles deep. The research station had a submarine, but Danny had only watched the pilots, never operated one himself. "We'll need help," Danny started to say, but Pip cut him off. "No time. Every minute we wait, she gets weaker. I'll guide you. Through our bond, one can sense what you need to do." It was insane. Danny was 14 with a broken shoulder, fleeing from galactic authorities, about to pilot a submarine to crushing depths to save a dragon he'd never met. Pip's warmth flowed through their bond, bringing strength Danny didn't know he had. The dragon nuzzled his face and spoke with absolute certainty. "We found each other in a blizzard. We survived challenges from ancient dragons. We escaped trained soldiers. We can do this." Danny stood up, legs steadier than they should be. "Then let's go save your family." They left the geothermal zone and headed back toward the coast. Hover drones still circled in the distance, but the storm provided cover. Pip flew close to Danny, their bond stronger than ever, 2 minds working as one. Somewhere beneath the ocean, a baby star wing was dying. Danny had saved Pip once in the snow. Now he'd save Pip's sister in the deep, because that's what family did. And they were family now, bonded deeper than blood, connected by choice and love and a promise made in a blizzard that neither would ever break. The submarine was never meant for a 14-year-old and a dragon. Danny strapped himself into the pilot's seat while Pip curled in the heated observation bubble, scales glowing to light the cramped interior. Controls covered every surface, half of them marked with alien symbols Danny didn't recognize. His datapad showed the signal 3 miles down a trench that could crush the submarine if he made one mistake. Danny's hand shook as he activated the descent sequence. "I can't do this," he whispered. Pip's consciousness merged with his through their bond. "Yes, you can. I'll help you. Our minds work together now, remember?" The submarine sank into darkness. Pressure alarms beeped warnings Danny tried to ignore. Through the bond, Pip fed him calm confidence he didn't feel. The dragon's presence in his mind was like having a second set of instincts that Danny's hands moved over controls with more certainty than they should. Pip was showing him what to do, not with words but with shared understanding. Left, down, adjust buoyancy, compensate for current. Together, they were better than either alone. The ocean floor appeared on scanners. A damaged escape pod lay wedged between rocks, its heat signature fading fast. Danny maneuvered the submarine close and deployed the retrieval arm. The pod was smaller than Pip's had been. Danny gasped when he saw the tiny dragon inside, barely moving. Scales that should have been vibrant blue-green were almost white with cold. She was dying. Hurry, Pip urged, mental voice tight with fear. Danny got the pod into the submarine's airlock and flooded it with heat. The retrieval took precious minutes. When the inner door opened, Pip rushed to his sister and wrapped around her, sharing warmth desperately. Through Pip's connection, Danny felt the female Starwing's consciousness. Barely a flicker, Pip was pouring energy into her through some mechanism Danny didn't understand. Dragon empathy that went beyond human comprehension. Color slowly returned to her scales. She opened golden eyes and looked at Pip, then at Danny. She was too weak to speak, but Danny felt her gratitude like a physical warmth. Brooke, Danny named her on impulse. Your name is Brooke. Pip looked at him, and through their bond Danny felt approval. Brooke chirped weakly and pressed closer to Pip. The submarine surfaced miles from the station. Danny checked his datapad. 1 hour left before the GWA tracked them. 2 more siblings to save. They flew the submarine to the desert coordinates, racing time. The second escape pod was half buried in sand, its occupants suffering from heat exhaustion despite being a fire-breathing dragon. Danny retrieved him carefully, noting orange and black scales. Pip touched this brother and shared strength. Ash, Pip's mental voice identified him. He's always been the bold one. Even as an egg, he moved more than the others. Ash recovered faster than Brooke, immediately trying to explore the submarine. Danny caught him before he triggered something important. The young dragon looked at Danny with curious eyes and chirped a question. That's Danny, Pip explained, somehow translating between them. My bonded companion. He's saving us. Ash's expression shifted to something like awe. He pressed his head against Danny's hand in gratitude. The third signal led them to frozen tundra. Danny was exhausted, his shoulders screaming despite Pip's earlier help. But they couldn't stop. They found the last sibling in a snow cave, somehow still alive through determination alone. Silver-white scales blended with ice. This one was different, adapted to cold in ways that shouldn't be possible for a starwing. Frost, Pip identified, always the quiet observer. Frost studied Danny with intelligent eyes before accepting rescue. Unlike the others, this dragon seemed comfortable and cold, though still grateful for the submarine's warmth. With all 4 siblings safe, Danny turned the submarine toward the research station. His time was up. The GWA would be waiting. But he'd succeeded. 4 baby starwings alive because he'd refused to give up. The station came into view along with a dozen GWA ships surrounding it. Danny surfaced the submarine and opened the hatch. Pip flew out first, siblings following carefully. Commander Rawls stood on the dock in environmental armor, flanked by armed troops. Daniel Webb, surrender the unregistered creatures immediately. Danny climbed out painfully, for baby dragons clustered around him. No, his parents rushed forward, but GWA troops blocked them. Sarata and Yudo were contained in energy fields. Ambassador Trell looked frustrated and helpless. Commander Rawls stepped closer. Child, you are in violation of 17 galactic statutes. I can have you and your parents arrested, your station shut down. Release the creatures or face severe consequences. Pip moved in front of Danny, wings spread protectively. Through their bond, Danny felt the dragon's fierce determination. The 3 siblings moved to flank them, forming a protective circle despite being weak and young. These aren't creatures, Danny said loudly. They're people. They think and feel and choose. Pip chose me. I choose him. His siblings chose to stay with us rather than be relocated to some sanctuary where they'd be alone. Star wings belong with their own kind, Rawls argued. They are with their kind. Saratah's voice rang out despite the energy field. They're with family. The human child has done what trained professionals failed to do. He saved 4 lives through courage and compassion. Rawls looked frustrated. The law is clear about unregistered aliens. Then the law is wrong, Danny's mother shouted. My son showed more humanity in 1 week than your entire organization. He risked everything to save these children, and you want to punish him for it. Ambassador Trell spoke up. Commander, I have documentation here from the Pyrosian Dragon Collective recognizing Daniel Webb bond with the Starwing designated Pip. That bond extends protection over the entire clutch under Ancient Dragon Law. Ancient Dragon Law has no standing in modern galactic governance, Rawls countered. Pip had been silent, but now the dragon's mental voice amplified somehow, broadcasting to everyone present. Then modern galactic governance is cruel and stupid. Everyone froze. A baby dragon had just spoken telepathically to dozens of beings simultaneously. Impossible. Starwings didn't develop that ability for years. Pip continued, voice growing stronger. Danny found me freezing and dying. He saved me when he didn't have to. He fed me and warmed me and protected me from people who wanted to take me away. He got hurt defending me. He risked everything to save my brothers and sisters. And you want to separate us because your laws say humans aren't good enough. Brooke added her voice, weaker but clear. He named me, gave me identity when I was just a dying thing in a pod. Ash chirped agreement. He's braver than most warriors I'll meet in my long life. Even Frost spoke, quiet but firm. He saw us as people worth saving, not property to be relocated. The 4 young dragons surrounded Danny, glowing with power that shouldn't exist in one so young. Their bond with each other and with Danny created something visible, a shimmer in the air that made hardened soldiers step back. Commander Rawls looked uncertain for the first time. This is unprecedented. Baby Starwings don't have this level of telepathy or power. Saratah's laugh echoed across the dock. Because no Starwings have ever bonded with a Death Worlder before. Danny's human resilience, his emotional strength from surviving Earth's harsh environment, feeds back through the bond. He makes them stronger. They make him stronger. This is evolution, Commander. This is proof that connections matter more than classifications. A new voice cut through the tension. She is correct. Everyone turned. A hologram appeared, showing an assembly of alien dignitaries. The Galactic Council itself, broadcasting from light years away. The speaker was a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix. We have been observing these events. The human child's actions have raised significant questions about our policies regarding Deathworlders and cross-species bonding. Commander Rawls stood at attention. Council members, I was simply enforcing established protocols. Protocols that clearly need revision, another council member said. This human saved 4 lives at great personal risk. He demonstrated qualities we claim to value: compassion, courage, selflessness. Yet our laws would punish him for it. Danny stood straighter despite his exhaustion. Pip pressed against him, lending strength through their bond, the energy being continued. Daniel Webb, the Galactic Council recognizes your bond with the Starwing Pip and extends provisional guardianship of all 4 siblings. You will be subject to regular welfare inspections and must collaborate with xenobiological researchers studying your unique bond. Danny could barely breathe. You mean we can stay together? Furthermore, the council members said, your case has revealed a troubling pattern. Preliminary investigation shows 17 other instances of humans secretly bonding with supposedly incompatible species. We can no longer ignore the evidence. Humans possess unique qualities that make them suitable companions for species we previously thought untouchable. Another council member spoke, this one resembling a floating flower. Earth's designation is under review. We propose reclassification from restricted Death World to Bridge World, a place where unlikely connections can form and thrive. The implications hit Danny slowly. His actions hadn't just saved Pip and the siblings. He'd changed how the entire galaxy viewed humanity. Commander Rawls looked like he'd swallowed something bitter, but saluted the council. Understood. I will withdraw my forces and submit revised protocols for review. The hologram faded. Suddenly, Danny's parents were hugging him and crying. The energy fields containing Sarata and Yudo dropped, and the ancient dragons approached. Sarata looked at Danny with respect. I was wrong about you, young human. You have the heart of a dragon warrior. Pip chose well. Yudo added, the siblings should return to Pyros, 7 eventually to learn their culture. But they may visit freely and maintain contact with their human family. Brooke, Ash, and Frost chirped agreement, but Pip spoke firmly. They can go home. I'm staying with Danny. This is where I belong. Danny looked at his bonded companion, the dragon who'd changed everything. Through their connection, he felt Pip's absolute certainty. They were meant to be together. 2 souls from different worlds who'd found each other in a blizzard and refused to let go. 6 months later, Danny stood in the expanded sanctuary wing of the research station. The place housed 12 rescued alien creatures now, all brought by humans who'd bonded with them secretly and were finally coming forward. Pip had grown to the size of a pony, scales brilliant purple and gold. The dragon lounged in a thermal vent while Brooke, Ash, and Frost played nearby. The siblings visited often through a portal network established between Earth and Pyros. 7. Danny's story had spread across the galaxy. News networks called him the boy who changed interspecies relations. Universities wanted to study his bond with Pip. The Galactic Council had created new positions for humans as bridge ambassadors. But Danny didn't care about fame. He cared about the dragon pressed against his side as he did homework, sharing warmth and companionship. He cared about Brooke's artistic creations using melted minerals, Ash's playful challenges to wrestling matches, and Frost's quiet wisdom shared in rare moments. His parents' research had shifted to studying cross-species bonding. The station received funding from a dozen worlds interested in understanding how humans connected with supposedly incompatible species. Sarata visited monthly to train Danny in Starwing traditions, accepting him as an honorary member of the Dragon Collective. Ambassador Trell had become a friend, often joining Danny for meals and discussing philosophy. Dr. Reeve apologized for his initial suspicion and now collaborated with Danny on papers about thermal regulation in bonded pairs. Snow fell outside, as it always did in Alaska, but the sanctuary stayed warm. Danny sat with Pip, Brooke, Ash, and Frost gathered around him. For dragons who shouldn't have survived, saved by a boy who refused to follow rules that valued protocol over compassion. Do you ever regret it? Pip asked through their bond. Your life got so complicated because of me. Danny wrapped his arms around Pip's neck and felt the dragon's warmth seep into his chest. Their heartbeats synchronized like always, 2 rhythms becoming one. Finding you in that blizzard was the best thing that ever happened to me, Danny said. You gave me purpose, family, a reason to be brave when I didn't think I could be. Pip's scales glowed brighter. You gave me life. Everything I am exists because you saw a dying dragon and chose compassion over rules. The other siblings added their voices in agreement. Brooke nuzzled Danny's hand. Ash playfully knocked him over. Even Frost allowed herself to be scratched behind the ears. They weren't human and alien anymore. They weren't even just friends. They were family, bound by choice and love, and a connection that had changed how an entire galaxy understood what was possible. Outside the sanctuary window, stars glittered in the clear night sky. Somewhere out there, other humans were bonding with other species, forming connections that shouldn't work according to old laws and outdated thinking. The galaxy was changing, evolving, learning that the strongest bonds weren't formed by similarity, but by seeing someone in need and choosing to help. Danny had learned that lesson in a blizzard when golden eyes met his and begged for shelter. He'd answered that plea with everything he had. And in doing so, he'd proven that sometimes the most unlikely friendships could change everything.